Hello and welcome to Ula Tea Leaf Readings. My name is Lenor and tonight I'm going to be reading your tea leaves. This is a horoscope for Pisces. If Pisces is your solar, lunar, ascendant / rising sign, then this is a message for you. Okay, let's get started. Okay, let's see, what do these tea leaves have to say? All right. And so, our card tonight is the Chariot. And this card has everything to do with willpower, determination, strength, ambition, bravery. Okay. All right. Well, I want to start right here because this kind of is a really beautiful little image. We have a horse and we have a person kind of riding the horse there, right on the back. And it looks like there's maybe like a moon over top. And this is, okay, and so this kind of passage into the unknown. Okay, and so I feel like you are in a place where you are all about moving forward. Nothing is going to stop you. You kind of have gathered your, your will, your motivation, and just the last of the putting up with whatever, and you are ready to head forward into a new place, right? And this could be quite literal. Leaving a relationship, moving to a new neighborhood, new city, distancing yourself from people in your life, whatever it is. Maybe going to a new job, that could be too. Whatever it is, I feel like you just have gotten to the point where you're just not hearing. You're not hearing it anymore. You're not putting. I just hit myself in the glasses. You're not putting up with it anymore. So moving ahead. There's, a determination there for sure. So the Chariot totally makes sense to me in this situation. We also have a key here, which makes me think maybe this is about moving on. Maybe you are, moving up in your job, going into like a management position. That kind of comes to mind, being in charge of opening a place up, having the keys. Let's see. What else do we have going on? And so here we have, it looks like an elephant, okay, with its trunk facing upwards, which is a sign of, good fortune, good health, longevity, happiness, right? That's why we see a lot of depictions of things with elephants on them, which are kind of really popular and I guess, decorating. You see like a lot of these, little prints with the elephants and stuff, and their trunks are always up. And so that is, that's a happy symbol, a good symbol, kind of almost, a talisman or something like this to bring in fortune into your home, into your life. And so, I think that as you're moving ahead, you're being very thoughtful about the things that you want. I think that you're a Pisces. You're, and I say this in the most positive way. You're very calculated. You don't just do things for the heck of it. You know, big things anyways, right? You are usually not very destructive. You have a plan and you stick to it as best you can. And of course, I think that the motivator here is just finding a place where you are feeling content, that there is some underlying meaning to your daily life. You know, I think that you can only go on so long just kind of going through the motions. And I think, you know, you probably have a very sharp mind, very intelligent person. You have to be in a place doing a thing that's going to stimulate your thinking, problem solving, you know, doing, of course, making money, having resources, wonderful. But I think that sometimes there's, you know, it's just really difficult to live a life that you are not excited about. And when this Chariot kind of comes barreling through, this is when there's, you know, it's like, okay, get on board. We're making big strides towards our dreams, our goals, where we belong. So I see a little house here. Okay. And I see here, it looks like a person with a little hat. Just kind of, you know, on their way. And I really feel that there's so much motion right now. I think, you know, maybe something happened. A falling out, an argument, a breakup. That could be. I also think it could just be that you are in a place where you are really seeking something deeper for yourself. Trying to find the right situation that is going to foster that deeper self-work. It's hard to get into any kind of lasting self-evolution, at least focused work to do that evolution. If you are in a situation where you're uncomfortable, you're not happy, you know, I just think of, there have been times in my life when I was younger, you know, even just living in an apartment where it was so loud and I wasn't, you know, I didn't have a good sleep schedule, or I had, you know, I've said this before on here, I waitressed for a lot of years. And so I worked at, you know, sometimes I'd be working at like 4 or 5 different restaurants or gigs or whatever. And my schedule was not consistent. It was just kind of every day piecing together shifts to make money. And in those times I just, you know, felt like a zombie. I was young, thankfully, younger anyways. And so it, you know, I still had the ability to get through it, but I knew at some point I had to figure out something else, because I just really was not able to focus on the healing that I needed to. You know, the things in my life that needed to be worked on. And I was, you know, blessed enough to figure that out for myself. And I know it's not easy. It was a struggle. It really was. And, so I understand how difficult that can be to make that decision, to alter the path that you have been on, to really not know how to get out of the cycle that you're in, especially if you're not making a ton of money, which, let's face it, not a lot of us are. The world we live in, it's hard to make a good living, and to just freely do what we want to do. So I get it. But then there are times in our life where it's like, you either do something or, it's just going to be this. And I think that more and more often, I feel like more people are awakening to something, and more often people are not, they just cannot abide these kinds of soul-sucking routines. So, what do we do? What are you doing? That's the question. I know that you want better for yourself, but I also think that this is a lot because of the house here. I think this is about your family, your children, grandchildren, the people in your life that you care about. You want to be there for them. You want to be your whole self for them. And I know making these kinds of choices to alter the way that we're living, people aren't always receptive to that. I mean, they don't have the same vision that you might, or the same faith to kind of depart from what is kind of working. But it's not really working, is it? It's working enough, I suppose. And so, sometimes it's not easy. It's not easy to tell your family, I want to, change my career. I want to go back to school. I want to move across the country. Whatever it is. But you have to do what you know is right for you. And so figuring that out and how to make that happen, that's where we're at here. That's where I feel like this reading, is kind of coming up. And I see here we have, it looks like a tall flower, kind of like a tulip. And we have a person kind of standing next to it, reaching up. And so for me, this also, it looks like the flower. It also looks like a grail or a cup, right? And I feel almost like I get this kind of visual in my head of like pulling down a flower and it's full of water, as if it had just rained at some point recently, and you pull it over and it dumps this water on your head. And it's not a bad thing. It's an absolution, right? It's to be anointed, to be cleansed by those most holy, life-bringing waters. This beautiful, beautiful flower, this beautiful, beautiful cup, this vessel of emotionality, of hope, of a promise of a better future, maybe some little, drop of ambition in there. Bravery, that strength that we've been talking about. To pull it down and to be anointed by that. And I feel, I feel like you have that, that heart aflame. At times, I think that, as you're going through this process, it almost feels like it is kind of a dreamy, surreal place. And I think that comes up for me from this first image here where we had the moon. The moon for me is always related to, of course, a kind of dreamy state, but also this kind of bizarre, almost a little bit morbid, a little bit surreal, that feeling at night. You look at things that you would see in the light, in the middle of the day. It's just whatever. It looks like a tree or a stack of wood or clothes sitting on a chair. But at night, with all of those shadows, with the lack of light there, things look a little unlike they are, right? And it can be scary. It can seem very strange. But it also, it can really evoke that feeling of wanting to go into the mystery, right? Kind of almost this feeling that there's no limit to what could be there, what can be unveiled, what is beyond what we see. You have to kind of just trust yourself, trust your instinct, your intuitive nature, which, of course, the Pisces is very intuitive. So that makes sense. Now we have this guy that's walking with his hat on, this little businessman. That's what it kind of looked like to me, this guy. And we turn it over. He looks kind of like an 8. Here, okay. And also, almost like there is an infinity in his core, right? That ever-giving vitality. That place that kind of keeps us perpetually moving and changing and growing and shrinking and growing and, evolving, devolving. All of the things, the cycles that we go through. And that's what this is part of, ultimately. And when you're in it, it's hard. It's hard to gain that perspective, the ability to even want to look at it from a perspective further out, right? I know when I have anxieties, when things are not going my way, I'm so immediate in the situation. I'm very much guilty of being a person that gets taken by my emotions fully. It's very hard to stop myself and think, this is just a moment. This is just a thing that is happening. This has nothing to do with myself, with, the longevity of things. It is a transient happening, a transient feeling, an energy that is passing through. But when I look at this, with a sign like the infinity, the 8, it is just that. Things are ever in movement. This is not an end. This is not just the beginning. I mean, it just is, it's going, it's going, it's going. And so, let's see, we have a couple of, I wanted to look at this one. This one looks like fish bones to me. Okay, right here. We have some fish bones. We have a little mermaid right here. Maybe another mermaid here and an anchor. So we have this kind of very nautical vibe going on, right? Or oceanic. And this is really, I think, so much about gathering inspiration from that unconscious, that vast unconscious ocean, being wary of anchoring yourself to any kind of negative beliefs about what's going on, being discerning so we don't end up, you know, wrecking ourselves, right? But, you know, not anchoring yourself to something that is just going to keep you stuck. The mermaid is the collector of dreams, of, you know, primordial imagery, symbols, omens, archetypes. And so look into your dreams as they're coming, right? This is where you're working your stuff out. Listen to what's going on in that sleep realm. You know, and through this, it's important to have some kind of support from somebody. If your family's not being understanding, you know, call upon a friend. If you don't have a friend, I think, you know, there are a lot of different kinds of support groups and, you know, little groupings of people throughout the internet. And I sometimes will say, go into somewhere like Reddit. Stay anonymous. Don't give out your informations. Reddit's nice because you can be more anonymous there than like a Facebook or Instagram or whatever. But you can find groups of people who are into whatever you're into, where if you are looking for some kind of, you know, group, people that kind of understand what you have going on. If you can't find that locally, we all need people to listen to us. We all need to listen to other people. And of course, you know, it's not the greatest thing to get into kind of, what do they call that? Like a vacuum of belief, right? An echo chamber. But I think it is important to have people, and I always use this example, but for me, it has been for becoming a parent. I've, you know, had to find communities online. I don't engage with them a lot, but I do read a lot of this stuff because these people are going through the same things I am during a time that I am, especially because I had a child during the pandemic. So it was kind of a strange situation. People could give me advice, but a lot of people didn't have a newborn during lockdown. So it was, you know, different. And so I found support in these kinds of places. So I really believe that you can find support as long as you're careful, you know, with your identity and all these things. And you all know, if you've read my community posts, I want you all to be safe. So be careful about what information about yourself you give out on the internet. And don't, you know, if people are asking you for that stuff, don't give it to them unless you know them for sure. So let's see, we have a broom. So I think this is, again, just about cleaning up these parts of your life, changing course, being determined, sticking to, you know, this new place that you want to go with yourself. You know, we all need these cleansing cycles. And we all need these, you know, shifts in the way that we're living, the way that we're thinking, the way that we're feeling, right? And so I think that that's really what you're going through right now. And so I want to thank you for spending this time with me. It is always such an honor to be able to bring these messages to you. If you'd be so kind as to like the video, it helps us get into the algorithm. And I say us because we are all a community here at Ula Tea Leaf Readings, and we're all kind of really getting to know each other, I feel like, in the comments section. I see a lot of you supporting each other, sharing your stories, being kind to one another, and truly, I believe that is so important. You never know what a few supportive, understanding, loving words will do for another person. So I really, truly love seeing that going on there. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please think about doing that. You can hit the little bell. It'll let you know when the next videos are coming out. And, you know, if you want to leave a comment, I read them all. It takes me sometimes a day or so to get back to them, but I do read them and they mean so much. I also want to thank all of you who said happy birthday to Paul over at Dove and Serpent Tarot, my lovely husband. And I'm not biased. He is a wonderful tarot reader. He really is so talented. So I thank you all for that. And we're going to talk again in just a few days. But in the meantime, you can watch your other placements too. I always encourage that. So thank you. And we will talk soon.